My father demanded I give him half my salary, snarling. I brought you into this world, so you belong to me. When I refused, he showed up at my job and screamed, Fire her if she won't pay me. My boss laughed and said, Actually, you're banned from this building. His face went red as security dragged him out. I'm 26 now. Living in Lubbock, Texas. Working in accounting at a small but decent office. Not a dream job, but it pays well and the people are solid. I've worked my ass off to get where I am. And it all started because of him, my father. Not in a good way. Not in the he worked hard to provide kind of way. More like he ruined everything he touched, and I had to climb out of a hole he dug. I grew up in Amarillo. My mom left when I was 13. She packed a single suitcase and was gone before dinner. My dad told me she was selfish. Said she didn't care about me. But I remember the look in her eyes that morning. She wanted to take me with her. She cried when she hugged me. Said, I'm so sorry. He told her if she tried to take me, he'd call the cops and claim she kidnapped me. She didn't have money or a lawyer. So she left. Alone. From that day, I became the punching bag for everything. Not literally. He never hit me. But he knew how to make me feel small. Every time I asked for school supplies, he'd sigh like I was asking for gold. If I ever got a cold, he'd roll his eyes and say, You're weak. Like your mother. He called me useless so many times it stopped sounding like an insult. It just became who I was. At 15, I got my first job, stocking shelves at a corner store. He took half my paycheck. Room and board, he said. That was funny, since the roof leaked and the heat barely worked in winter. At 17, I got 2 jobs. Started staying with friends more. One of their moms noticed bruises, not from hitting, but from where I'd slipped cleaning floors and never got to rest. She helped me apply for scholarships. Community college was my way out. I got in. I left at 18 and never looked back. I didn't speak to him for years. I assumed he'd moved on. I didn't tell him where I lived. Didn't give him my number. But small towns talk. One of my old high school friends mentioned me getting a good job. That's how he found me. He called me one Sunday afternoon. You working now? I froze when I heard his voice. It had been years, but I'd know that tone anywhere. Cold. Direct. Yeah, I said. I'm working. How much they paying you? Enough to live. Then he said it. That line I'll never forget. I brought you into this world, so you belong to me. You owe me half. I thought he was joking. I laughed. What? You heard me. I fed you. Clothed you. Put a roof over your head. You owe me. I told him no. I didn't argue. I just said, no, and hung up. That should have been it. But he started calling daily. Voicemail after voicemail. Texts that got more aggressive each time. You're a selfish little bitch. I gave you everything. You'll regret crossing me. He told me he should have let my mom take me. Said I was nothing but debt. Then, somehow, he found where I worked. I don't know how. Maybe through Facebook. Maybe someone from home told him. I didn't think he had it in him to drive 4 hours just to make a scene. But he did. It was a Thursday. Just before lunch. The receptionist buzzed me and said a man claiming to be my father was in the lobby and acting a little wild. My stomach dropped. I walked out, and there he was. Same old worn flannel shirt. Red-faced. Sweating. Loud. There she is, he shouted. That's my daughter. She won't pay me. People were staring. Coworkers, clients, even the mail guy. He marched up to my boss, Mr. Jenkins, who had just walked out of his office. You the one in charge? My father barked. I am, Jenkins said, calm as hell. Well, fire her. My dad snapped. She won't pay me what she owes. I raised her, I fed her, now she's got a job and she won't give me a damn dime. There was silence. Then Jenkins laughed. Actually laughed. You serious? He said. You think I'd fire someone because they won't hand over their paycheck to a lunatic? She's my blood, my dad yelled. She belongs to me. Jenkins turned to the security guy standing nearby. He's banned from this building. Get him out of here. Security didn't waste time. They grabbed his arm. He tried to pull away. This isn't over, he shouted as they dragged him out. You think you're safe? You think this job makes you better than me? The doors shut behind him. Everyone stared at me. I went back to my desk shaking. I thought maybe that was the worst of it. That after getting embarrassed like that, he'd disappear again. Crawl back under whatever rock he came from. But I was wrong. That man didn't know shame. He only knew control. And when he couldn't control me anymore, he got meaner. 3 days after the office incident, I got home from work and found my apartment door wide open. I froze. Just stood there in the hallway, heart pounding. My neighbor, Mrs. Garrison, was peeking through her peephole. She opened the door a crack when she saw me. Your dad was here, she said, voice shaking. Said he was your emergency contact. Maintenance let him in. I felt sick. Inside, nothing was stolen. But everything was touched. My drawers were pulled out. My laptop was open on the couch. A picture of me and my friends from college was ripped in half and left on the kitchen counter. There was a note. You think you're too good for your own blood? Think again. I called the police. They said because he was technically listed on my old lease as an emergency contact, left over from when I first moved in and didn't know better, it was a miscommunication, not break-in. They told me to update my lease. File a restraining order. I did both. I switched apartments the following month. Didn't tell anyone the new address. Started keeping a bat by the bed. Took different routes home. Changed my number. For a while, things were quiet. Then, out of nowhere, I got served. He filed a small claims suit. Said I owed him for raising me. Said he was entitled to back pay for 18 years of housing, food, and school supplies. I laughed when I first read it. Laughed out of pure disbelief. But he was serious. He had handwritten lists of expenses, including things like cereal $2,300 over 10 years, and birth hospital bill $14,000. I showed up to court thinking no judge in their right mind would humor this. But he showed up too. In a suit. Slick back hair. With a folder full of papers and a Bible in his hand. He stood there and said I was a liar raised by the devil. That my soul had been poisoned by liberal thinking. That I was spiritually bound to him as a daughter, and by denying him support, I was violating some moral contract. I almost cried in that courtroom, not because I was scared of losing, but because I couldn't believe the man standing there was the same one who used to take me fishing on Saturdays when I was 8. The judge dismissed the case. Called it abusive and frivolous. My father stood up, pointed at me, and said, "You'll pay one way or another." And he meant it. A week later, my job got a fax, an anonymous tip claiming I was committing tax fraud. IRS letters started showing up. I got audited. They found nothing. But the stress alone nearly broke me. That's when I knew. He wasn't going to stop. He wasn't just trying to get money. He wanted to ruin me. After the audit cleared, I thought, maybe hoped, he'd finally realize he couldn't win. But my father was the kind of man who didn't need to win to keep fighting. He just needed to make sure I lost something. And that's when things got worse. It started with little things. My credit score dropped overnight. When I checked my credit report, there were 3 credit cards opened in my name that I never applied for. All maxed out. I filed reports. Froze my credit. Fought like hell to get them removed. It took weeks. While I was dealing with that, my car got towed from my own apartment complex. Turned out someone had called it in as abandoned. They even removed the parking permit from my dash. Security footage wasn't clear enough to prove anything. Then I got a call from my landlord. "There's been a noise complaint," he said. "I live alone. I don't throw parties. I barely have visitors." But somehow there were 4 complaints over 2 weeks. All late at night. All claiming screaming, banging, loud music. I knew it was him. I knew it. But I couldn't prove anything. No footage. No eyewitnesses. Just harassment wrapped in bad luck. Then came the worst of it. I got called into HR at work. They said they'd received an anonymous tip that I had lied on my resume. Claimed I never graduated from college. That my transcripts were fake. I sat there in that glass office, watching the HR manager sort through papers while I tried not to panic. "I don't believe it," she said gently. "But we do have to verify." They pulled my file. Called the college. Everything checked out. But that wasn't the point. The damage was done. People started whispering around the office. Some looked at me different. Like I was one step away from getting walked out. I went home that night and cried. I hadn't cried in years. I was so tired. So angry. So worn down from looking over my shoulder and wondering what he'd try next. That's when I decided I was done playing defense. I called my mom. I hadn't spoken to her in almost 10 years. Not because I hated her. Because I thought she didn't care. But I was wrong. She picked up on the second ring. "Baby?" she said. Her voice cracked. "Is that you?" We talked for hours. I told her everything. She cried. Told me she'd been too scared to fight for me. Said she thought about me every day. Said she always hoped I'd reach out. And then she told me something I didn't expect. "You're not the only one he's done this to." She said he'd been scamming people for years. Old co-workers. Church folks. Neighbors. He borrowed money, promised to pay it back, then ghosted. Lied to women. Got into fights. Burned every bridge. "He's got enemies," she said. "People who want him gone." That gave me an idea. Not revenge. Not yet. But I started digging. I found one of his ex-girlfriends through a Facebook group. She lived 2 towns over. Said he drained her savings and left her with debt. I found a guy who used to work with him at a construction job. He said my dad stole tools and blamed it on someone else. I found 6 people willing to write statements about him. Real ones. With dates. With bank receipts. With screenshots. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it all. But I was building something. A case. A truth he couldn't scream his way out of. I didn't want to destroy him at first. I just wanted peace. But the more I uncovered, the more I realized something. He never wanted peace. He wanted control. So I stopped playing nice. I contacted every person who'd shared their story with me. Asked if they'd be willing to file together. Not just statements, but real, legal complaints. Fraud. Harassment. Identity theft. One woman even claimed he forged her signature on a car loan. I hired a lawyer. It wasn't cheap. I drained half my savings. But I didn't care. I also filed for a restraining order that covered every possible contact: phone, email, social media. I brought in screenshots, voicemails, court documents, witness statements. Everything. It was granted. 6 months at first. Then extended to a year. But that was just the beginning. My lawyer reached out to the district attorney's office. Gave them the bundle of documents I'd collected. At first, I thought it would go nowhere. Then I got a call. They were opening an investigation. Not just for what he'd done to me, but for everything. Turns out, 2 of the people he scammed were elderly. That pushed it into felony territory. They brought him in for questioning. He tried to play the same old game, claimed it was all lies, said he was being set up by his jealous daughter. But this time, the DA had paperwork. Bank records. Eyewitnesses. It went to court. I was there the day he was arraigned. He wouldn't look at me. The trial lasted 2 months. I took the stand. So did others. He was found guilty on multiple counts: fraud, identity theft, harassment, and elder abuse. The judge sentenced him to 6 years in prison. When they put the cuffs on him, he finally looked at me. Not angry. Not ashamed. Just stunned. Like he truly never thought I could beat him. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just watched him go. After that, things got quiet. I fixed my credit. Got promoted. Even took a vacation for the first time in years. But I won't lie, there was a cost. The stress wrecked my health for a while. I lost weight. Had panic attacks. Some nights I still check the locks 3 times before bed. I've become someone I never thought I'd be: cautious, guarded, sharp. And that's the part no one talks about. Even when you win, you don't walk away the same. I also had to face my own mistake. For too long, I stayed quiet. I ignored red flags. I hoped distance would fix things. It didn't. I let him sneak back into my life because I was afraid of making waves. Afraid of being the bad daughter. But I'm not ashamed anymore. I didn't ruin him. He did that to himself. I just stopped protecting the person who hurt me. And that was the day I got my freedom back.